stalwarts for the panel, Dr. Amish Vora, Dr. Ghanshyam Biswas, Dr. Vashish Maniar, and Dr. Shyam Agarwal. While the speakers were giving their insights, there are a lot of people had raised their hands. So I would request all of you to please wait till the question answer session where you will have the opportunity to ask your questions. In the meantime, if you write your question on the chat, then the host will know that you have a question to ask, and accordingly you will be unmuted in the sequence. Next slide, please. So this is what my coffee table at home looks like. You know, we've started playing board games which we never knew actually existed. And I'm sure many of you have a similar experience during your free time. Next. But this is the perception of the last 6 weeks. Some moments were happy, some were sad, tired, angry, anxious, and totally confused. And I'm sure that you will share with me these emotions that go through us. Next, please. So in India, the government has decided to have a roadmap to ease the restrictions of COVID-19 pandemic in 5 phases. And this is the dates, proposed dates that have been put up today. And as soon as the first phase gets going, I believe that the mentality would be to, have an exodus and move out as quickly as possible, but because we are cooped up here. So next, please. So I will start by asking the questions to the panelists, and we will start with Dr. Shyam Agarwal first. Is it true that the Korean study shows that we cannot get COVID-19 twice? A few reports were saying that we can, but now it has been identified that that was a lab error. Actually, once you get a COVID infection, then you are unlikely to get it again. So, Shyam Agarwal, over to you, please.
Yeah, Purvish, I think a debate still remains there in that area, whether the nucleic acids actually which are being detected after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, are they really the full virus or they are a part of it? So I think more and more data is emerging. There's actually what you are detecting by RT-PCR, say after 3 or 4 weeks, is some kind of a residual nucleic acid detection. It's not a full virus. So you're not going to be attacked with the full-blown syndrome of fever and infection and so on. Because so I think the immunity, once you build it up, it should be sufficient to take care of the virus in that individual.
So you're saying, and I think my perception is similar, is that a small dose of the viral infection is actually good because it primes our immune system to protect us from future problems that could occur.
Yeah, Dr. Nupur Raja did allude to that question of viral load.
Yes.
So, there is a paper in NEJM which says that higher the viral load in the nasopharyngeal swabs and in the nasal cavity, the chances of getting a high risk disease or a very severe disease is high. But it has not been concluded so far. And I think in the NEJM, which has recently been published about a few days ago, has not been able to correlate the severity of the disease with the viral load. So it still remains an open question.
Right.
I think people are doing the studies to figure that out.
Perfect. Can we go to the next slide, please? So what should we do when we are leaving from home or returning to home? And this was alluded to by Randeep in his lecture. And I would start with Amish. When you go to the Hope Clinic in the morning, what do you have a checklist that you go through that I should do this or I should leave things behind before leaving home? Over to you, Amish.
Thank you so much, sir, for asking that question. But before that, just one line about the previous question which you asked. The winter flu vaccine, we take the shot every year. So that means that we need extra protection from that virus infection year on year. COVID is there since December. So it's too early for us to say that same person cannot be infected twice. we'll have to have a lot of studies of neutralizing
Right.
antibodies and
I think
immunity and all that.
that point is well taken.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one.
So leaving from home, I have a checklist when I go to my clinic. But I would say that whenever I have to leave, I start one day in advance, checking on the patients who are going to come for either OPD.
We are not talking about patients. We are talking about you leaving home.
Okay, fine, perfect. So list of items which I keep ready is 2 pair of clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, water bottle, my packed own tiffin, most likely it is sandwich. I keep 1 extra pair of mask, hand sanitizer in the car, and I make sure that I do not wear any belt, do not carry any pen, any jewelry, any rings, any chain. These are the things. And of course, I make sure that I shave every time I leave for home, because it has been proven that N95 fitting of the mask is important that if you shave. This is what I do before leaving the house.
So that last point is exceedingly important. And I think I should not be looking after any COVID-19 patient, because the N95 mask will not help me. Ghanshyam, I'm going to come to you. Besides what Amish has said, do you have anything else in mind when you are getting out of your home and getting into your car to go to the hospital? Ghanshyam Biswas, please.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Able to hear me?
Yes.
Since you know that I work in my own hospital, so in these 6 weeks, 7 weeks, so we have curtailed down with the staff numbers. Many are staying in the hospital only for 3 weeks or so. So besides my own tiffin, I also carry extra so that I can share with my staff and colleagues, and rest as Amisha says rightly.
Perfect. Thank you. Can we go to the next slide, please? Vashist, you have to move from one MOC clinic to another. You have several facilities. Are there any specific precautions that you take on the road while you are seated in the car?
So, sir, I believe one thing that COVID-19 has taught me tremendously is to be aware of what I'm doing all the time. We inertly end up touching so many things that we don't need to or don't be out to. So what I have changed is being extremely aware of what I'm touching. Immediately, if I think this is a potential fomite, I sterilize my hands. I live multiple lives. When I'm on the road, things which are in my car stay in my car. They don't reach my house or they don't reach any of my clinics. So I try and create barriers between every movement that I do. Importantly, it's just about being significantly more aware of where my hands are, whether they're touching my nose or not. I tend to wear my N95 mask throughout when I'm in my car. It's not that I remove it and put on a new mask, or I just keep it aside while I'm traveling from one place to the other.
Right. So there is some issue about air conditioning and recycling of air. So in your car, do you keep the AC on and the windows shut, or would you prefer to keep the windows open?
Sir, I keep the AC on and the windows shut. I believe I'm more likely to die because of respiratory illnesses from the air outside than from the air that I breathe within my car.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. Next slide, please. So now you have reached your clinic or your hospital. What is the SOP that you do follow for persons who are entering the premises? Vashish, since you are already unmuted, I will start with you and then ask all the panelists one by one.
Sir, at all of the MOC clinics, we have a COVID triage area just before you enter, and those 6 checklists which Dr. Randeep mentioned is taken care of. One thing that is very dynamic and which we try and keep on updating every alternate day is containment zones. So if this patient is coming from an area which is a potential containment zone, then those patients are triaged and are not allowed to enter the premises. There is no OPD happening at any of the MOC centers. We do only virtual consultations. The people who enter the premises are the ones who are taking chemotherapy. Importantly, do we ensure that every patient is tested for a COVID-19 during every cycle of chemotherapy? While there is enough evidence to believe that that should be the standard of care, to be honest, sir, it's been a real challenge ensuring that every patient is tested every time that they come for chemotherapy. We assume that every patient who enters the premise is COVID positive. The patient themselves wear a mask and every staff is in a PPE kit during the entire duration of their stay in the hospital.
Perfect. Amish, you also have a clinic which is like a boutique clinic with high value patients. What are the precautions that you tell your security officer to do before allowing the patient to come in?
Thank you, sir. Security person has a list of patients who are going to enter that particular day in Hope.
Perfect.
Without any appointment, unless and until the new person has spoken to either me or the attending doctor, we are not allowing anybody to enter. The second thing is, one of the things, apart from what Dr. Randeep has written in the slides, what we do as a flow very quickly, everybody washes their hand before entering. They change the 2 surgical ply masks, what we provide them in front of us. While we take vitals, one thing what we have noticed is we keep the patient waiting for 15 minutes and again take the vitals. Somebody suppressing cough, somebody suppressing sneeze, somebody suppressing running nose cannot be suppressed for 15 minutes. So we recheck the vitals at that particular point of time. Our observation, in fact, 1 2 patients where we could catch them that they were coughing and they were trying to suppress that, we sent them to flu clinic, and that way probably we could avoid the contamination of our area.
I think that is a very important practical point that you have mentioned. Okay, Ghanshyam, in your hospital, since you are controlling the entire hospital, do you take similar precautions or something else?
Like our oncology building is different, so we have a screening. In the main hospital, we have a flu clinic. So initial 3 weeks were really a tough time because most of the patients, you know, that this part of the country, most of these patients go to Mumbai and many other states. So since they had just come back from Mumbai and they were due for chemotherapy, then so there was a special history taken since they are at least a month, 3 to 4 weeks after they have either shown there's some evidence that they have come on such and such date. So we didn't allow those patients.
Yes.
So next 3 weeks have been rather easy because we understand that these patients have not been traveling outside. So
Perfect.
now we have what we have started, because there are few places in Odisha which are hotspots. So we are trying to do those patients a COVID test at this moment.
Right. Next slide, please. What about the waiting area? So I'll start with Shyam and then move on to the other panelists. At Sir Gangaram Hospital, how do you manage the waiting area for the patients and relatives?
Right. So, you know, Purvish, I think it is going to be first day tomorrow for a graded outpatient department to begin.
Okay.
So, you know, what we're doing is that on nearly 6 departments, mainly gynecology and the basic departments are being allowed. And since we oncologists cannot stop treatment, so we've been also allowed 2 OPDs in a week for 2 hours.
Right.
So, you know, and they are saying that we should have, payment by the credit card. There is going to be rationing of patients, like 4 or 5 patients in an hour. And there's going to be a huge tent-like space to be for the patients to wait there with a physical distance maintained at least 3 feet. So this exercise is going to, begin tomorrow. We'll have to sort of see how it works. And as far as the chemo is concerned, we are doing COVID tests for all our patients before the chemo is administered, and only COVID negative patients are being taken up for chemotherapy.
Right. Randeep should also be here. And there was a message on the social media that NH hospital in Gurgaon is going to be taken over as a COVID hospital. So Randeep, what is the situation in your hospital right now?
So Narayana Hospital Gurgaon has not been taken as far as of today. They have not converted into COVID hospital. They have taken another hospital in Manesar, which is a 600-bedded Meteor hospital, where they are starting admissions for COVID from tomorrow. But one message which we got from our director is that in case if the situation goes out of hand, the government has all the rights to take some beds. I mean,
Yes.
they will not listen, and they will directly issue the order. The order which was circulated was there, but that was as a panic attack, that in case the Meteor is not ready, because Meteor Hospital was not ready to take COVID, but it is running from tomorrow.
Perfect. Perfect. Can we have the next slide, please? So now what about the consulting room? And I think Shyam had initiated this discussion, so I will start with him first. What is the value or what is the role of a transparent plastic curtain in a consulting room? Shyam Agarwal, please.
Right. So, two things, which we are doing. As I said, we're going to start the outpatient department tomorrow in Sir Gangaram Hospital. So there are two issues. One is the building itself, and the second, of course, as you were saying, the consultation chamber. So ours is a big hospital and has a centrally air-conditioned unit. So, what actually the hospital has done is that nearly 50% of the OPD rooms they have broken open the walls and fitted in an exhaust fan virtually in every room.
Right.
So there are almost, I think, 100 OPD chambers. So they have only converted 30 or 40 because it takes time. So as more and more chambers get ready, so they will, have more OPDs get going. Now, as regards this, the curtain. So I think I think we all understand, if somebody coughs in front of you, the air droplets can travel almost, 6 feet, 9 feet, or even 12 feet, as has been shown by a JAMA paper. So, it's not possible because asymptomatic carriers are there. So I think it's a good idea to have a physical barrier in the form of a transparent curtain between the doctor and the patient and even the relative who comes. So, this is certainly going to help the doctor to get the exposure from the coughing patient, who possibly could be an asymptomatic carrier.
Right. Amish, do you plan to have such a curtain in your clinic?
Sir, we have not started physical OPD like what it is shown here.
Yes.
I will get the collective thing. It can be easily done in my place because we have only 3 OPD chambers, but we are using window ACs and exhaust are already there in every room. So hopefully we'll learn as we go.
Yeah. Ghanshyam, what about your hospital? Are you planning to use a curtain like this?
So not really. So at this moment, actually, I am not using my OPD. So I am using my OPD or chamber only for some rest, some tea, coffee, or for a webinar meeting, or only some changes in the dress. Because I have a intake 1, intake 2, and the resident room. So I try to see the patients outside only. So I'm not allowing them to enter the room for the time being.
Right. Next slide, please. So, Vashish, I will start with you now about staff issues. There is likelihood that since you are running multiple centers, there could be critical staff that are absent, either with prior notice or without prior notice. So how do you manage that? And the next question that you may take over at the same time is how to manage the payroll, cash flow, and revenue in these critical circumstances. Vashish, to you.
So, sir, what we've done at MOC at every center is have 2 teams, Team A and Team B, and they work on alternate day regimes. And this Team A includes the consultant to the level 4 janitor at the center, and none of these people meet each other at all. So in case that there is an exposure of a patient on an outpatient basis and this patient turns out to be positive, we don't see OPD, sir. I'm talking about chemotherapy patients.
Yes.
And so that entire group of people are quarantined. And the center does not stop functioning because then there is a completely new set of people who have not been exposed to the same people.
Right.
We also sanitize all our centers twice a week, irrespectively, even if there is exposure or none, to ensure hygiene. Coming to the second point that you've mentioned, payroll, sir. As of now, we have ensured that even though the staff is working at 50% of their expected duration of time, we are not cutting on their payroll. The challenge, to be very honest, sir, is to keep the staff motivated to come and work.
Yes.
And I believe that happens only if we as doctors are physically seen in the center. If I do my work, so sir, the entire outpatient department of MOC is now virtual. We don't see any patients or touch any patients. But all the virtual consultations happen in the center. I believe us leaders have to be seen for others to follow. If I ask my patient, if I ask my staff and expect them to take care of all of my sick patients, and I would try and remote control them sitting from my house, I expect them to be demotivated really soon. But if I am in a full PPE, ensuring and sitting in the center for at least 6 to 8 hours a day, in our experience running 6 centers in Bombay and Maharashtra in general, we've not had a major issue with staff retracting or not wanting to work simply because they look up to us and see that we are around.
Right, perfect. Amish, your center is also critical in terms of staff issues. So what has been your experience and how do you handle the payroll and cash flow?
Sir, what Dr. Vashishta has said, we exactly do that. We have made 3 teams, and so that at least 1 or 2 team is there to run the center. So far, we are lucky. We don't know about tomorrow, but the system has worked well. In terms of the payroll and cash flow and revenue, of course, it is affected. Everybody knows that. What we have done in last 2 months is that we have paid the lower staff 100% salary. And the doctors, what we have come out with is that we are giving them less salary, but we are giving them in writing that this is not the salary cut. This is the amount which we are keeping aside. And as and when the revenue increases and the profit increases, you will be given back this amount which has been deducted.
Perfect.
That is helping us in 2 ways. One, they are understanding and they have agreed. And second thing is, I believe that it will help me retaining them for at least 1 year till the crisis is over. And in terms of the lower staff, what we have done, sir, is we have added more incentives. Small incentives, like if something gets the task gets over this much of incentive, or this gets over this month, that also have kept them motivated. These are the 2 things what we have done in our center.
Excellent. Ghanshyam Biswas, your hospital must be having at least 300 plus staff members. So as opposed to these clinics, your staff is a large number. What has been your experience in dealing with these problems?
So as of today, so there are 429 staffs, and out of which 44, including me, are posted in the oncology wing.
Right.
So when the pandemic started, when the lockdown started, in fact, Odisha were 2 days earlier since lockdown. So in the hindsight, since the government was doing good, so I took a risk. So the oncology wing, in fact, in last 2 months or so, if we look at the targets, we have done fairly well, so almost 90%. Because I had 3 residents, so 2 were coming and 1 was taking leave. And out of 50 nursing students, so 5 were on duty for a week and then 7 days off. So that's how we could maintain at least for every day except Sunday, so around 12-15. So the amount generated from the oncology unit went into the whole hospital. So the March month we get full, April month again. So for those who are ESI beneficiaries, who are less than 21,000, so we have paid them all. For doctors, as Amish said, so we are giving somewhat 30 to 50%, and we have told them that in next few months, once things gets over, because from this Monday, so almost all staffs are coming down. So rest of the unit actually have started. So once the review generates maybe something 3 or 4 months from now, so we'll pay them back. So that's how we are working. And definitely motivation, as Maniar also said, Amish. So every day, so because since the nearby shops were closed, so only one cafeteria. So I used to have some tea, coffee in my room, some snacks. So that's how every staff who has a birthday, at least some cash gift. So that is how, because cakes were not available. So definitely staff motivation, because few of the staffs are not willing to come for work. Even one of my residents didn't want to come back. So that's the motivation. So we have done it, and things, for God's grace, things have worked well.
All right. Next slide, please. So cleaning, some aspects of this were covered, but I believe that what Vashishta said was twice a week deep cleaning. Amish, in your Hope Clinic, what is the policy for cleaning as far as the COVID is concerned, and how are you tackling that?
Sir, as Vashish said, that we are doing twice a week, that we have outsourced because ours is a boutique care center. The outsourcing company comes twice a week and they do the thorough cleaning. In addition to that, every 2 hourly, we are cleaning the doorknobs. We are cleaning all the surfaces which are touched frequently. Every 2 hourly, strictly, we are doing that. And once a day, before the patients start coming in, and once all the patients have gone, sodium hypochlorite 1%, as which is suggested by everybody, we clean all the surfaces which are being touched by anybody. In addition to that, soap and water where we use for the surfaces. By watch, we have trained the staff, the cleaning staff, to maintain the contact area for 20 minutes so that at least it is taken according to the recommendations. In addition to that, so there are set guidelines and it is written in your slide also. We try to follow all that.
Right. Excellent. So this is, I think Vashish mentioned that everything is on video consultation, working from home. Ghanshyam, you are nearby, so you don't mind going to the hospital. Shyam, in your experience, while the OPD was not on, which is going to start tomorrow, have you taken the advantage of video consultation for your patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we in fact at Gangaram, we have this Macura app, So they have been booking patients, through that app, taking the charges in the Macura, this thing, and we've been providing video consultation. And there are certain patients who are referred, directly through some friend or whatever.
Yes.
And we've been doing the WhatsApp consultation. I wanted to make one more comment, Purvish.
Please.
What happened in our hospital was that we have a couple of these kiosks where tea and biscuits, etc., are served to residents and even the senior consultants who stand around that kiosk and, have tea for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So one of the, guys who was serving tea got coronavirus.
Oh my God.
So, so taking from that experience, so all these kiosks have been now shut down. So you only have one, cafeteria where, people go with all the precautions. So, and in those kiosks, no social distancing was being observed.
Of course.
People were just hanging around him. And then I don't know what's happening with that. This happened 4 days ago. So this is an important point to remember, that we must observe social distancing. And that is why in the OPDs also, we are rationing patients. So only 3 or 4 patients per doctor in an hour, so as to not create crowds at the blood collection center or at the x-rays or at the, because these are single windows, x-ray, CT scans, blood collection. So social distancing is so very crucial, as you know.
Absolutely. So now each of the panelists, I'm going to ask, what is the happening at the home front? Okay. How is family dealing with lockdown? Are the children creating a ruckus? Is the spouse, missing out on pran jaye par fashion na jaye? So Amish, let me start with you and then we'll move on to each of the panelists. How is Avni and the twins handling this situation, Amish? Amish,
so they are handling it. They are handling it better than me, sir.
Okay.
They are enjoying.
Right. So that is good. So Ghanshyam, what about your home? I believe that your kid has just given a very important exam and he must be relaxed.
Yeah, so in that way, he's lucky that his exams got over. There are many students whose exams are not over. Second, since my daughter is quite young, small, so she has from Monday to Friday or 3 hours of the school-based, tele-education, you can say. And I have my parents here, so my elderly parents.
Yes.
So the cooking part, and in fact, my wife is also, so she goes to hospital for 2 to 3 hours, and she prepares some amount, and my mother also prepares some amount. And before I leave the hospital, so I get a checklist from my parents and my wife. So what has to be bought, because since I'm moving out daily, so once coming back, so I bring them for the children and the parents also. And in fact, my wife is also one of the authority who is signing out the report of corona from the Institute of Life Sciences.
Fantastic. Great. Shyam, coming back to you, what has been your experience at home?
So, there are two issues on my front. So my wife is an active obstetrician, and she's been doing cesareans and deliveries, which she has no option because she continues to practice, and she's also doing some OPDs. She's wearing PPEs, but then we are living in that fear of getting the virus. But then so far, touch wood, we are all fine. The second aspect in my life is I have elderly parents with me who stay on a floor which is say the first floor. So earlier I used to spend 1 to 2 hours every day with my parents, sitting in the same room and chatting and watching television. So but after this corona business, I just go in, peep in, ask him how is he, and I don't spend like 1 to 2 hours, just spend a few minutes. So this is the change which has happened because of this corona.
So these are the 4 panelists representing different aspects of how they are dealing with oncology care in their patients. Many of the questions they have asked, but I believe that there have been a lot of questions and a lot of people that have raised hands. So we will now move on to the question and answer session, and you can ask these people as well as the speakers if they are still with us. Can we start with unmuting Dr. Hemant Malhotra? I believe he has raised his hand several times. So let's start with him and then take the other people as they have asked the questions on the chat.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, Hemant, go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. So I have an important question to all the 4 panelists and maybe to Dr. Purvish also. What do you do with the patient's document? The patient gets a sheaf of documents like the past prescription, the pathology report, the X-ray, CT scans, PET, the works. When you touch the documents, then is there a chance of nullifying whatever you're doing? The documents which the patient brings.
Right. So Shyam, let us start with you. How do you handle touching the documents that the patient brings?
As someone said, that you have to view each and everything which comes in front of you, that it is contaminated with COVID. Right. So what I do is that I keep a sanitizer next to me, and after touching my pen, my telephone and the records as you are suggesting, I just sanitize my hands immediately after the patient is gone, before I see the next patient. So that's been my practice to safeguard myself.
Can I make a comment, Chief?
Please, Hemant, go ahead.
So my wife is the chief of the virology lab at SMS. She's doing about 2,000 COVID tests every day. And what she suggested to me is they get the forms from various collection centers. They stick it into the microwave for 30 seconds and microwave the forms. Does that make any kind of sense to us? Can we start doing that?
I think it's a fantastic idea, and definitely the temperatures above the temperature of 60 degrees centigrade is supposed to kill the virus. Microwave temperature is much more than that. So I should congratulate Bharti for coming up with this innovative suggestion and for you to sharing with everybody on this webinar.
So Dr. Amish wants to add a point.
Yes, Amish, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Just in addition to what Dr. Hemant said and what Dr. Shyam said, blood reports, the patient...
You're losing audio. What's the problem, Kashish? There's some problem with the audio?
So that's the internet connection of the individual.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
In between, Amish, your voice had faded away. Now you are audible. Go ahead.
Okay. So what we have started doing is, we have started creating a paperless environment at home. The reports are to be sent on a phone only. There is no report copy which is to be brought in home. 1. Second thing is, even the chemotherapy protocol or the OPD prescription, we are typing it on the computer, taking the screenshot and sharing to either the nurses or the pharmacist to carry out the orders. Last 1 week, the touching of the papers have been reduced by almost 95%, except for the physical signature on the consent form. We are not using any paper. Even if there is a MRI or the CT scan report, patient scans it and send it across on the WhatsApp. We read that. If we have to discuss with the radiologist, we click the film, send it across, and we read that. With that, sir, 95% of not touching has been achieved.
Excellent.
Sir, Sir Randeep here.
Randeep.
So there are few questions. One is again that frequent question we have also discussed in the last webinar, that how frequently we are doing the COVID. Most of us are doing at the first visit. And also we have some radiation oncologists who have asked that what precautions we are taking for the radiation machine in our centers while taking the patient on the radiotherapy machine, because we may have 4 or 5 oncologists, 4 or 5 residents, but I think most of the centers have maximum 1 or 2 radiotherapy machines.
Excellent. What is the next question?
So we were able to hear the question. I mean, it is for the panelist, anyone can take it.
Right. So Manoj Lokhande was asking a question. If Manoj is there, you can unmute him. But his question was how, yeah, go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Question is, especially to Dr. Raje, what was her mindset? Positive mindset did help her during her crisis, and what was her diet during the disease?
Oh, good question. You have to have a positive mindset. It was scary, very scary, to be honest, initially. But, you know, those of you who know me, and I think Purvesh knows me the best in this group, Hemant knows me very well. I've always been a very positive person, and I stayed very positive. With diet, you know, nothing. I drink, I'm very careful with what I eat and drink. I have a lot of haldi, so I don't know if that helps. But I do haldi and haldi water and stuff like that. So, and I'm very careful about my food choices. And
okay. Regarding hello,
yeah,
regarding viral load, madam. Regarding viral load, being I'm a cancer surgeon, what is your take-home message for the surgical oncologists in India? Is how frequently we should go to OTs, or how much cases we should operate in a week? Is there any guideline?
Yeah, so I'll tell you
from your side.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what we have done here. I think it's really important to, you know, we've gotten rid of all elective surgeries. We're not doing elective surgeries right now. And I think we're only doing urgent and emergent surgeries, and we'll open up elective surgeries as things settle down. I think until you start seeing a down surge and a decrease in the number of deaths and decrease in the number of cases, I think one has to be exceedingly careful. In surgical oncology, you know, one thing we are seeing is patients who need surgical intervention need to be treated. We are taking the necessary precautions. I don't think we can say much about viral load. And I know somebody talked about, you know, once you get it, you never get it again. You know, I don't know if we have any of that data. I will tell you, I have done my antibody test. I was COVID positive for 7 weeks. I do not have an antibody response. My IgG is not detectable. So I think we're learning a lot more about this virus. We just do not know enough. And until we have all the data, we all absolutely have to take care and only do surgeries which are absolutely critically needed. Over time, I think you can gradually start opening up.
Excellent.
All the best, ma'am. Thank you.
Next, JB Sharma can be unmuted. He has a question.
Dr. JB, you'll have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Hello.
Good evening, JB.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
I just want to ask one question to Dr. Shyam Agarwal. How frequently they are doing COVID testing during chemotherapy when the patient is on chemotherapy weekly schedule, 2 weekly schedule, and 3 weekly schedule?
Yeah, I think I wrote on the chat box that we are asking, actually our hospital is asking once in 2 weeks. But then if somebody is asymptomatic and you have one COVID negative, I would be willing to relax for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Number one. Number two, there is a relaxation in the charges also when you are doing for repeated COVID testing, for example, for dialysis and for chemotherapy. So I think the next time they charge 50%, so as to reduce the, the burden of the money on the patient.
Okay, excellent. Dr. Tripti Saxena can be unmuted next, please.
Ma'am, please go ahead with your question. Dr. Tripti?
Yes, sir. So my question was the same. Being a radiation oncologist, how frequently the test to be done? Like we are doing at the baseline when patient first comes to the OPD, we do the test, but we are not sure how frequently it's to be done again and again. Where like head and neck patients, they go on for 7 weeks radiation.
So Shyam, what would you suggest for a person getting radiation?
Right. So although I think Dr. Nupur can also add on to this if she is there, but I think the 2 weekly thing is based on the incubation period. So it should apply to, I guess, to the radiation patient as well. So one can stick to the policy of doing it once in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We have a radiation oncologist here, Dr. Sharmila Agarwal. Can you unmute her so that we can take her opinion as well, please?
Sharmila ma'am, please go ahead.
Sir, good evening. What we have discussed in the CIC, nowadays we are doing weekly testing.
Right.
All the patients on radiotherapy, and every patient who is undergoing chemotherapy, before chemotherapy, the patient is undergoing a COVID test.
I think what
Sharmila
is...
medical oncologists are not very comfortable. And we as a radiation oncologist, once we have started this weekly, we have got some confidence when we are dealing with almost 6 weeks of treatment.
Right, right. So can we unmute Dr. Tahir Kagalwala, please? Tahir Kagalwala, he had a comment about the documents.
Yeah, I think I have made the comment in the chats, and this is basically about, doctors who are working in healthcare systems where files are not accessed by patients but only by health workers. I work in the UK, and obviously in an indoor ward, we have large voluminous files for every patient going back in data up to 7 or 8 years. These files cannot be, we just touch them. Our trust has given the guidance that you can touch the paper, and at the end of the day, you basically sanitize your hands, or at the end of the long, whatever, handling of files. What do others have to say about this?
Perfect, perfect. So, handling of the files in some places cannot be avoided, and we can see the public transport in UK. Tahir just got out of the bus. Shall I go back to Ghanshyam Biswas?
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, go ahead, Randeep.
I had actually left a high risk, low risk contact to be discussed. So,
please go ahead.
So my question to all the panelists is that suppose you have seen an asymptomatic COVID patient, and that patient, of course, you have written the COVID or he has gone back, and then after 2-3 days, you get the report as COVID positive. You have just talked to that patient for 5-10 minutes in the OPD, or touched the patient with gloves and N95.
So, Randeep, you are saying that there is a high-risk patient, you have examined the patient, you have been in contact with the patient for more than 10 minutes. And what to do
I have not
next?
examined asymptomatic COVID positive patient, and just sat in the OPD, had a chit-chat, and then went off. And I was with my mask and gloves, which is the common scenario. Most of us are doing the mask and glove.
So if it's a COVID positive asymptomatic patient and you have been in contact with him for less than 10 minutes, I think that there is little to worry about. And I will ask Shyam Agarwal to pitch in as to what he would do in such a circumstances.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you on this account that if you had a low contact with a positive person, for example, you've gone onto on your rounds, and physicians normally don't touch. Even if you're touching, you are wearing a glove, and you, for a few minutes, you're there, a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and then you come out. So although the guidelines are not very, very clear, but I think if you have had a reasonable PPE in the form of N95, your shield is there, your mask is there, your gown is there, and your gloves are there. So I am not very keen on getting quarantined for this reason, unless the contact is disclose.
Excellent. Dr. Sachin Minas had a comment. Can we unmute him, please?
Dr. Sachin, please go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Go ahead.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you to all the speakers for the wonderful talks. So 3 comments I would like to make. So first is there was a wonderful slide in the OPD. It was seen that there was a transparent curtain, and if you cannot arrange a transparent curtain, one of the tips that I can give is that you can install a simple table fan on the back of the doctor and have the airflow arranged in such a way that the airflow goes from the doctor towards the patient, not the other way around.
Excellent idea.
So that is one. The other is the microwave thing. So I would like to point out that the microwave works on the technology of creating friction between the H2O molecules. So if anything is 100% dry, you cannot heat that thing in a microwave.
Got
like
it.
forms.
Excellent, excellent. So we'll now move to the next, Dr. Pawan. If Dr. Pawan Kumar is there, can you unmute him, please?
Dr. Pawan, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm Dr. Pawan, working as a radiation oncologist in Uttar Pradesh, Bareilly city, SRMS.
Ji.
Here in Bareilly, there were 4 patients tested with a private lab. They came COVID positive. But when they were tested in the government lab, they came as negative. So these facilities are not available everywhere that we can go for 2 weekly or weekly COVID test. And how reliable is this COVID test? Sensitivity is only 70%.
So that is a limitation of the test and we have to accept it. We can't help it. And if the quality between one lab and the other is not up to the mark, that is also not in our hands. So I think you will have to take a call as to what is exactly happening in your circumstances, right? We now move on to Dr. Ajit Venur. He had a question about PPE, I think. Or was it regarding the microwave and papers? Can you unmute Dr. Ajit Venur, please?
Dr. Ajit, you will have to unmute your mic.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Parik. It's an excellent meeting. Yeah, the question is, can you microwave this MRI and CT scan films? I don't think, firstly, they will not fit into the microwave. And secondly, I don't know whether, you can do that.
So answer is very simple. You can't do that to the films. They will get distorted and, crumple. So absolutely no question of putting them in the microwave.
Thank you.
Thank you for the very important thing. Shilpa Chatney. Shilpa Chatney can be unmuted, please.
Dr. Shilpa, please go ahead. So I'll just read Dr. Shilpa's comment. We should be protecting the patients also. We can't put the fan on the patient's face like that.
So you have a choice between protecting yourself and patient. If you are feeling that you are COVID positive, then you should not switch on the fan. If you are confident that you are not COVID positive, then please switch on the fan. We now move on to Dr. Rajesh Jindal, please.
Dr. Rajesh, please go ahead.
Sir, I just wanted to ask, how frequently should the gown or the PPE be changed or washed or autoclaved?
So we'll start with Shyam and then take the opinion of all the panelists, including Randeep, as to what they are doing about PPE change and autoclaving. Shyam, please start.
I've already mentioned in the chat box that the cloth gown which we are using in the in the wards, etc., needs to be autoclaved each and every time after it has been removed. So,
right.
But if it is a plastic thing or something, then it is disposable. Then it can't be reused, I think. But I'm not sure on that.
Okay. Ghanshyam, what do you do at your hospital? Ghanshyam Biswas? If he's not there, then we move on to Dr. Amish Vora. Recycling of PPE, Dr. Amish Vora, please.
So we are using, because we are a small center, our requirement for PPE is very less. So I'm using disposable PPEs.
Excellent.
And every time we are discarding it, sir.
Okay, Ghanshyam, I could hear you in between. Please start your reply. Ghanshyam Biswas.
Yeah, so we have two types of PPEs. So on the lower OPD days, like the Saturdays, so I use the plastic one, so which is disposable. So other days, so we use the other one, so which is autoclavable. So we do maybe 2 or 3 times we use that.
Excellent. And Vashisht, what do you do at your centers about recycling PPEs?
So, sir, we have a triage based on who wears what PPE based on the level of exposure. So, if the level of exposure is the front desk, admin staff, they all wear autoclavable cloth PPEs, which are obviously autoclaved before every use. For the staff nurses, which is working in the daycare unit, treating patients, they're on single-use disposable PPEs.
Right. So there has been some discussion about N95 mask being recycled, and you should have a set of 4 masks. You write 1, 2, 3, 4. You use it on day 1 and then allow it to dry in the sun for 3 days before reusing that. Do you agree with that, Vashisht?
So that's what we've been doing. All staff are given 5 N95 masks, which are replaced at the end of 16 to 20 days. So
right.
Use of 3 to 4 times every mask is reused. And
Right.
they're all given plastic bags, which are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Excellent. Can you unmute Gaurav? He has some question about the PPE also. Gaurav, can be unmuted, please?
Dr. Gaurav.
Hello. So
Yeah,
I want to know about the quality specifications for the PPE which is being used in the OPD. Any certification or what GSM is okay?
Sir, can I take that question?
Yeah, Randy, please go ahead.
So 90 to 120 GSM is the best, especially for the operating surgeons because you are exposed to the body fluids. So please take care. The specifications are that, but most of the places in India, we are not getting 90 to 120 GSM. Also, sir, I want to make 2-3 comments. I have not in my hospital, but I have observed that PPE you can wear anywhere. You can even stand and wear it, but please have a dedicated area to remove it. It can be more harmful than protective. Please take care while removing PPE. And the question is not there of reusing your PPE. Once you have removed it, you have to discard. You can't even put your hand on it. You can't even go to loo. You can't even drink water. If you are covered, you are covered. Once you do the duty for 4 or 5 hours, please follow that strict PPE. Once you remove it, because you never know which patient you have carried, and that is it's a non-percolable, it's not a porous material. Everything is on the surface of it. So please handle your PPEs very carefully. Have a dedicated area and a dedicated policy before you doff your PPE or remove your PPEs.
Anil had some question. Can we unmute Anil, please?
Dr. Anil, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to know that we do OPDs and we see just follow-up patients. We don't touch them. We maintain a 6 feet distance from them. You still need a full PPE like a gown and everything in that situation.
So I don't think that in a OPD, when you are seeing, being in the same room with the patient for less than 10 minutes, you need anything more than a mask. You may use a transparent curtain to prevent the person from sneezing or coughing onto you, but we will take the opinion of everybody in the panel. Shyam, what do you think should be done by Anil Singhvi when he is just being with the patient for a few minutes? Shyam, please.
So I think we are fairly clear that even in the OPD, because you don't know the relative, you don't know the patient, whether they are positive or negative. So you should have a gown. You should have, I think, the gloves as well. You should have N95 mask, and you should have a shield. You see, the problem is that the minute you have the N95 and the shield, I mean, breathing beyond 30 minutes it becomes really difficult. So you need to start accumulating maybe carbon dioxide and so on. So, you have that urge to remove the mask to breathe freely. And that's what I've been facing for the last, a couple of weeks when we are going on rounds for 1 hour or so. So, after 30 minutes, you start feeling uncomfortable. And now that the air conditioning is not going to be there, it's a rough weather, it's a humid weather. So it's really very, very tough to sort of sit for 2 hours in the OPD with everything covered. You start, perspiring in your clothes. So it's not easy, but then this is how it is at this point in time.
Right. So I will ask Chand Nair to comment on this. Shyam has said that it is very difficult and stressful for breathing and to do the actual activities of a doctor while wearing the PPE and the mask. In your experience, Chand, has any healthcare professionals or doctors come to you for stress related to the PPEs?
Yeah, but they tend to handle it. I mean, the folks initially do report feeling suffocated this is especially if you are sort of a heretofore non-surgical kind of field, where you weren't really required to use any of this. So folks who in particular have sort of phobias of being sort of claustrophobic or feeling some obsessive ideas about being unable to breathe, and that in itself initially experience that, but most physicians and nurses get over it pretty soon.
Excellent.
Yes, it was reported.
Right. Vashish Maniar, I'm going to come to you. You said that you sit in the clinic and do your video consultation wearing PP. So how comfortable are you?
So very uncomfortable,
yes.
To be very honest. But then I remember that my actions is going to actually, amplify and define the risk that my family carries, and that lets me sweat and not worry about it. So the anxiety of carrying home the virus is far greater than the discomfort caused by the PPE.
Right. So Vikas Talreja and Pushkar Ingle have also confirmed that it is very difficult to have, carry out activities while wearing the PPE. And I've been told that some residents who are on duty for 6 to 8 hours as a stretch are even wearing adult diapers so that they don't need to have to go to the loo. So this is really, something new that we are facing every day, and this is really a big challenge. So I think we are coming close to 9 p.m. and Vashish, go ahead.
So I just want to be the devil's advocate regarding COVID testing, considering the fact that we are now going to see a wave of a significantly larger number of patients, and COVID testing is going to become a real challenge. How realistic or feasible it is going to be, especially for people sitting in a city like Bombay, where you have active 15,000 patients, to expect a patient to undergo a COVID test prior to every cycle, especially if it is weekly. I believe, and so that is the policy that we at MOC follow, is to have a very rigid triage system and have a very low threshold for ensuring that anybody who's potentially symptomatic, strong close contact, are not given chemotherapy. We do not do COVID testing for every patient who's on chemotherapy as a protocol. Only for people who are expected to have a potentially a febrile neutropenia with the chemotherapy. It's a triple drug therapy, anticipatory R-CHOP, where you assume that this patient may be neutropenic and hence require admission. We have a baseline COVID testing in case they require admission. It's a real challenge, sir, and I'm sharing this from my experience in a city like Bombay to get it done frequently for most patients. Even in patients who I have at Saifi and HN, it's a huge challenge. Chemotherapies are postponed indefinitely because of inability to get reasonable COVID testing done. Also, if I make a small point here, so the government and the BMC guidelines are extremely dynamic. Till 2 days back, we were suddenly told that we cannot prescribe a COVID test and they would need a quarantine until the report came negative. They would not be able to get the test done. So we'll have to live by the ear, and these policies have to be very fluidic.
Right. Dr. Pushkal Ingle had a comment. If he is still there, can we unmute him, please? And then Shyam will take your comment. Pushkal Ingle, please. Dr. Pushkal Ingle.
I agree with the fact what Dr. Ajit has said, that using gloves to maintain the adequacy is not good enough. In fact, I would suggest to use more of hand sanitizers after looking at the patient. Of course, I'm not going to touch the patient, but I'll see the patient and then use hand sanitizers after each and every patient.
Right, right. Next, Dr. Avinash Popli had a question or a comment. Can we unmute Dr. Avinash, please?
Yeah. Hi, Purvish. It is just a slightly unrelated question regarding the physical handling of the newspapers.
Right. So I think best is to avoid newspaper, as Tahir had mentioned. Read the newspapers on your computer or your smartphone, and that way you will avoid. In our building, though, they have stopped, delivering the papers. So even if I want, I can't read them.
No, that's okay. But what is the possibility of transmission through it?
So paper transmission is possible, and virus has been identified by PCR for 2 to 3 days on any paper, including newspaper. So I think that is something that we have to live with. Tahir Kagalwala had some comments to make about Mumbai. Tahir is functioning as a pediatrician in the UK NHS system, but his roots are in Mumbai, and he has been a dear friend as well as my batchmate from KEM Hospital. Can we unmute Tahir, please?
Thanks, Purvish. Thanks for all the kind words. So, I was just wondering, by definition, a global pandemic is one where eventually everybody will be exposed. And I would say that at the end of this whole pandemic, there is a real possibility that up to 70 to 80% of the people, including us, will be infected and will most of the times survive and be okay afterwards. It is just like influenza or any other viral pandemic. So I think that we are fussing a lot about all this testing. All that was appropriate in the second phase where we were trying to prevent community transmission. Now, whatever the government says, community transmission is here to stay. It is already happening, and there is no way the government can keep on denying that we are not in phase 3. I'm sure all of you doctors will agree with this. So I think that we have to be a little bit now rational about it. And as Purvish has been repeatedly saying, we have to live with it. So that's all I'm trying to say. A lot of reflection will go into this point, and all of you are going to reflect after this meeting. कि भाई कितना डरना है, डर के जीना है कि you have to just move on. I'm 60, Purvish is 60, 61. We are all in our, in that age of life where COVID can really harm us. But as you saw me before, I mean, wearing a water-resistant mask, I was in the public transport. I went to a shopping center, did my shopping because this is permitted here in the UK. But otherwise, I think you have to just move, just take care of all the things that you're doing. I think this would be a nice way to summarize this whole, fear and psychosis that is there among all of us, Just be careful, stay away as much as possible, isolate yourself if you have symptoms. Don't just keep running for COVID tests for yourself and for your family. It is, yes, appropriate for those who got immunosuppression, malignancies, etc. Yes, you should do weekly tests. But Donald Trump going for a daily test every day before he goes to White House, I think it's the height of paranoia. And it's not going to solve problems at all, I feel.
Right. Excellent. Thank you very much. These were very insightful comments. Now I'm going to go through the faculty one by one for the final comments and a take-home message. We'll start with Dr. Shyam Agarwal first and then move on to Randeep. Shyam, please.
Yeah, right. I think I wanted to make a point which I've been writing also. The government of India and the government of Delhi is trying to create a few COVID-only hospitals. So I don't think that they're going to be successful, especially in the private sector, because sustaining the staff is not going to be easy in the private sector. So I think, and the number of patients are going to increase, number one. Yes. Suspect patients are going to be there. So, in Delhi, I'm facing a problem. Every day I get a call that my patient is not getting a bed in this hospital, that hospital or the other. They're all full. So, I think the government of Delhi and the government of India should request all big hospitals to isolate 15 to 20% beds where they have the PPEs, where they're geared up for looking for those suspect patients. And everybody has to participate in the management of COVID or suspect COVID patients. You can't just brush away a patient with fever or cough or with, if somebody has uncontrolled diabetes with some fever, you can't just rush away the patient or brush away the patient from your hospital. So I think this policy change should be there in the minds of the, the administrators, so that all hospitals have a triage or a facility to look after these patients.
Excellent. Now I'll go to Randeep for his comments, please. Randeep.
So, sir, as my topic was, I think, of course, we have to live with it. It is not like dar ke jeena, but please take care of yourself. Don't think कि मुझे नहीं हो सकता है या अभी मेरी city में इतना ज़्यादा नहीं है. Second point is that please take care of your staff, because as sisters are more in touch with the patients, we can go for virtual consult. We can keep the patient 6 feet away, 2 feet away, but sisters have to cannulate, sisters have to touch the patient. I sincerely feel that as far as daycare is there, if the hospital can afford or can sustain, PPEs shall be provided to the daycare staff, because COVID-19 testing, even weekly, is not the answer to this.
Right.
Thank you.
And next is Amish. Your final comments, please.
Yes, sir. Just two small, quick, in addition to what Dr. Shyam sir said, I think Kerala approach of testing one patient and isolating the contact instead of just keep testing them, but isolating the contact so that the chain is stopped is one way of tackling the situation. And second thing is unrelated, teleconsultation has got a huge scope. And I think taking COVID into the background, we should all look at teleconsultation as also one of the ways of looking after our patients.
Perfect. Now, can we unmute Ghanshyam for his final comments, please? And after that, Vashish Maniar.
Ghanshyam sir,
COVID is here. So COVID is here to stay for some time with us. Second, so treat this as a new normal, as we have been discussing for the last 2 hours. And third, so be a part of your states and the country's economy. So that is going to drive, because there are many who cannot afford, there are many, so look after those people who really need your help.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, we come to Vashish Maniar, please.
So you'll
Yes,
have to
sir.
unmute your mic.
Yeah. So, sir, three things that I would just want to conclude about. Number one is when we talk about family, I would take this COVID as a silver lining, a blessing in disguise, if I may say so. I have never spent such quality time with my children and my family and my parents since the time that I was studying from my MBBS days. So probably from family point of view, this is the best time ever, guys. Enjoy, make the most of it. It may never come again in our life. Number two, on the professional front, a point that I forgot to make is ensure all the staff that you work for you. There are very reasonably cheap COVID policies available. This will further empower them that they will be taken care of financially in case there is a COVID situation. And number three, as Dr. Randeep mentioned, let us assume that COVID is here to stay. Let the new normal be wearing masks, adequately taking care of all the people who come with you. We our medical oncologists, radiation oncologists are supposed to be leaders in our field. We cannot run away from the situation. We have to be leaders. We have to create safe environment, working zone for the people that we work in and continue to deliver for our community as a whole.
Excellent. I think there is a lot of lessons that we have discussed and we have learned. If we implement some of them, we will grow a long way in our fight against this COVID pandemic, which the whole world is facing. And I thank you very much, all the faculty and the comments which have come from all over the world. We have participants from UK, USA, from Oman. I don't know, many others from SAARC countries as well. And all the speakers, the panelists have done a fantastic job. So I thank each one of you. And with that, I think we should come to a close for the webinar. Originally, it was planned for 90 minutes, but we have already crossed 120 minutes. So I think that speaks volumes for the contribution that the faculty has done for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All of you can sign off now. Thank you.